Hi, this is David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. This morning, I'm joined by Mike Herzog, our engineer of the week. How you doing, Mike?
Glad to be here again, David.
All right. Let's start out. Let's talk a little bit about, it's kind of funny when you hear the term skateboard. But we're going to talk about a company called CATL, which is CATL, which probably stands for a really long Chinese name, but I don't. We're just going to call it CATL. Anyways, they're making what they call a skateboard, and I've seen this concept a little bit before, but this is going to be a really innovative in the way that EVs are mass produced, and this is a changing in production of automobiles. So what we see in the picture is essentially the battery pack sitting with the chassis with the wheels, and they're beginning manufacturing of this, and they're shipping it out to EV makers. Now, these EV makers at the moment are all in China or Vietnam. So I noticed VinFast was one of the companies.
Yeah.
And the idea here is that it can speed up not just manufacturing time for these folks, it also speeds up development time, their time that it takes to bring a new EV design to market. And
Yeah, it's seeing things like this, it's great. Can be great for the industry because it goes back to the start of the automotive industry of streamlining and factory lines and making consistent parts and making consistent elements of it, and it becomes plug and play. And I mean, this is the main driver. This is your fuel source. That's going to these vehicles. So opening this up really should speed up some of those processes. Now you get in that argument like, are we putting all of our eggs in one basket? So if this is a flawed design, or it won't spur innovation to continue from others if the industry starts to standardize on this. But on the same hand, I love it because it's approaching the problem differently. It's saying, does an electric vehicle have to look like a combustion engine vehicle? And the answer is no. It can look different. We can design it different. We can build it from the ground up a little bit differently. So it's a neat idea.
From a safety perspective, the skateboard can absorb up to 85% of impact energy, reducing the impact on vehicle safety caused by styling. That's pretty big for that chassis to just be able to absorb energy. And this design, they've already gotten it to where in prototypes they've been able to get it up to 1,000-kilometer battery. So that'd be 625 miles.
That's a heck of a
range.
Yeah,
that's a big range. They're developing an 800-volt electric drive system, energy efficiency as high as 91.7%. Now, one of the things when we talk about the difference between battery-powered or electric vehicles and gas is the current EVs out on the road are about 80% efficient. Okay. But gas is something like 21% efficient.
Very low.
It is not while it does have great energy density, per gallon, it doesn't have, what's used in passenger cars isn't as high of a density as diesel, but it isn't burned efficiently.
No.
And so
you lose a lot to heat.
Right. And
everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people even arguing, hey, that catalytic converter doesn't add anything. And, they're running at incredibly hot temperatures, and those catalytic converters, just different things that don't add much to the powertrain. And the EV, we don't need those things. And like on the skateboard, we see on the skateboard design that there's other things that you normally see when you're looking underneath the car. You just don't have those.
Exactly. That's the first thing that came to my mind. You have this vision of, all right, what's underneath the car? And, you stick your head and there's pipes and there's tubes and there's springs and there's rotors and there's all of these other things. But if you can put it all in one neat little package and self-contain all of that and build your efficiencies, that's an interesting path forward that could have really good benefits.
No, it is interesting when you look at, you've got you got a little bit of a suspension here around the
Mhm.
tires, and then I like how it's got the floating steering wheel. I mean, in a sense, you've got, this could be remote controlled, right?
Yeah, that's what I think too. It's like my kid's remote controlled car. That's when you take them apart, that's what they all look like. It's all the same handful of parts.
Yeah, but it's just interesting to think that you've got all this battery in here, and I'm kind of, and you got the motor up front, but it's just really simplifying and dumbing down car manufacturing. Now, we've talked before about like the Tesla Gigapress and how they're
Mhm.
doing this single casting for the whole underbody of the car, which you haven't been able to do with gas cars. But this is just part of showing how, and I get people who crap on electric cars all the time, how they're junk and all this. It's like they're simplifying car manufacturing. They're reducing the cost of car
Mhm.
manufacturing. Cars are going to actually get cheaper. And this would be welcomed. A lot of people have always thought that cars, you think about the average cost of driving a car here in the United States. You're lucky if you can operate a car, even on a cheap car, for less than about $700 a month when you factor in, financing, gas, insurance, things like that. You're
Mhm.
lucky if you can operate a car. That's a pretty big expense for people.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you're spending over $20 a day just to have a method to get around. Okay, that instead of walking, and it's they're coming up with ways to make it so that you're going to not need, you're going to save a couple $100 on fuel. You're going to save on the cost of the vehicle itself. So you're going to cut that down. They're going to make the vehicle safer. So eventually it's going to cut down on insurance costs. It's really quite innovative. And you think about it.
It's incredible what they're doing, and you talk maintenance costs. And this has always been one of those for EVs forever. Like, hey, you have reduced maintenance costs and see it, but you can see something like this, and again, think about the guts of your existing car and all the belts and your transmission and things that are just so dang complicated. And then there's this. There's
Right.
four moving parts. You got four tires. That's what moves.
Well, you see people that really like old cars, like cars
Mhm.
from the 70s, 80s, 60s. And one of the things they like about them is they don't have a computer in them, right?
Yeah.
And when the gas cars were simpler, and now all of the gas cars are so complex, and with the computer and everything. And while this is going to be a computerized car, it's taking away so much of that stuff that can break.
That's a really interesting thought of like the vehicles we have today are this weird combination of technology and electronics and mechanical moving parts. And a design like this is completely flipping it from, hey, I'm just mechanical to now I'm just electric. So you don't have this weird interface between the two systems.
No, it's just, it's an exciting thing. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to really grasp where that's going to lead. You're
Mhm.
going to see this eventually. It's not just going to be the Chinese car companies. I watched some little clip of Musk being interviewed, and he was saying, if you really want to talk the big leagues in automotive right now, it's China. We're
Yeah.
not, China's not allowed to compete in the United States right now, but they're dominating the world market. And he said that while Tesla is doing really well in the Chinese market, they're the only, and there is one other company. What's we talked about this once. Buick does good in the Chinese
Well,
market,
I've heard that before.
and Buick is a luxury brand that people really love over there. Over here, you really think about it as something that's a very seniors only brand, and
It is.
it's just got a weird connotation.
It has a connotation to it that it is, yeah, it's an older brand. It's you think of the words that would come to your mind, like it's reliable, it's classic, it's been around, it's a nice automobile. And maybe it's those same things in the Chinese market that it's Americana. A
Well,
Buick is Americana, and that's why we like it.
you think about it. When you think about Buick, Buick never has a stripped down model.
No.
Okay, so you're pretty much always getting leather seats. You're
Mhm.
getting, they've always had power windows as long as they've had, not that they make cars anymore without power windows, but I'm just saying, all these things that were options on other brands, they always had it in there.
That was the
And
base
it, and
model.
it
Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of like the attraction to, say, like Mac computers. One of the attractions to Mac computers is, unlike buying a PC, they're more expensive, but they package in a whole lot of other pieces that PCs don't have in them because they're trying to keep the cost down.
Yep.
So like, this is why it used to be the only people who used to run Macs were graphics people. And the reason was, you could buy an off-the-shelf Mac and it had a high-end video card in it, and it was designed for running
Or
things. And
that.
that's kind of,
Yeah.
but that's also kind of where electric vehicles are going. And that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why you see a lot of adopters from the tech space, because when you get in them and you realize, it's like, hey, my gas car can't do this. And this is really nice. This is a really big quality of life. And I have people say, well, driving's pretty easy, right? But on the same token, it would be nice to be able to sometimes do other things while driving. And now the car is doing more of that. And sometimes, if you're, even if you're on Bluetooth and you're talking,
Yep.
it's still not 100%, focus on the road and things like that. And, I know that, what is it?
So
When
that's
when
a
you,
great that Mac idea is a great comparison for electric vehicles, because I know I've complained here, I've complained other places. I had got a newer EV, hadn't had a new car in a long time. It beeps at me all the time. Everything, it beep beep beep. You did this. You're backing up. All of those, and it's a great feature. And it's, if you already have the brains, if you already have to put in the processing power to control your drivetrain, to do everything like that, well, shoot, just add this feature, add that feature. It's, you've already invested. You had to go above and beyond what a normal computer brain would be in a car. Like, put all the bells and whistles on, and all the wireless communication and all of those things, and that's just standard issue for an electric vehicle, because you already put the computer in it. Like, that's, yeah, I've noticed that newer gas vehicles, internal combustion engines, they don't beep at you as much. And maybe that's just my car versus other cars, but it feels like all of those electronic bells and whistles, and the Bluetooth, and talk to text and connect with my phone and all, it's there, and you expect it to be standard because you're driving a computer.
one of my friends had gotten a used Model 3. He was driving it in the rain at 80 miles per hour in Florida,
Mhm.
got in an accident. He needed tires. He walked away from that 80-mile-per-hour crash, went and got another Tesla Model 3. And that is
Well,
one of
first
the
of all,
things I've had
walking away from an 80-mile-an-hour crash is
yeah,
insane. Yeah.
yeah. So one of the things people don't really talk about when it comes to EVs is how much safer they are. And I've known a couple people already that have been in Tesla crashes that can't believe they walked away from the accident. And that, is hard, is pretty big testament. It's like they absolutely went and got another one simply because,
Yeah.
that they
They
saw that.
recognize what happened. Now, I hope your comment there, people don't take that, "Ooh, Tesla crashes." People have been in, well, yeah, it's their vehicles. I mean, that's life. Life
Yeah,
happens when you drive a vehicle on the road. Look at the numbers of all the other vehicle crashes. It's
no,
a part of
I'm
it.
aware. Well, my friend was being dumb driving that fast in the
Right?
rain.
That's, we're
He's
all,
young. He's young. Okay. It was a
and
25-year-old.
I
Okay.
will also say electric vehicles are very, very fun to drive. And
And
you
very
can get up to
fast.
80 miles an hour without even thinking about it or noticing it, because they are smooth as heck to get up to that speed.
Well, he switched from Model 3 long range to a Model 3 performance.
Yeah. It's,
So
it's fun. They're very, very fun to drive.
anyways, so our next story is also about is actually about Tesla. And this is comes from Autoblog. This one is about the Model Y. Now, right now, the Model Y is the best-selling car in the world. But what I didn't know was, and this started at the end of last year. So in the last couple of months of last year and the first couple of months of this year, the Model Y has been outselling everything. It may have actually started around September with the Model Y kind of took over in sales, but it actually was the most produced vehicle worldwide in 2023 for the whole year. I didn't realize that it had quite done that, but the Toyota RAV4. So when you start rounding out the car sales in the world, it's the Model Y, it's either the RAV4 or the Corolla, the Toyota Hilux, and then I think another Toyota, but I'm not sure which one it is. Here's the production figures, though, for last year. And let's see here. Let's make sure that this is global. This is global. So 1.1 million Model Ys versus just under a million RAV4s. Ford F-Series pickups, 933,000. There's a lot of F-Series pickups. You know, this would include everything from an F-150, I guess, probably to a 350, because they make them all the way to a 650.
Yeah.
You don't see those. Those are basically tow trucks and
that's
things like that.
Vehicle.
Yeah, so I think that would probably go just to 250 and 350.
250s and 350s regularly. I mean, that's a good farm truck. I mean, that's
right.
You need that to pull a big trailer.
Yeah, well, and a 350 is almost exclusively a dually unless it's a van. Yeah, and then the Corolla was fourth at 869. Oh, the Honda CRV was fifth. I didn't expect that.
I think I've seen that. I think it had a bad rap a year or two ago. I think they had a design issue potentially, but now it's come back around. Plus, it's so much bigger than what it used to be. I mean, it's not a full-size SUV by any means, but it's a lot bigger than it was 10 years ago. So I could see that one starting to make its way up, even supplanting like the Pilot, on a list like that.
Well, when you look at this, it's hard to fathom that these are world numbers.
Yeah.
So the Ford F-Series came in third. And I think when you look at the individual sales, they may not count the Fords because it's not necessarily the F-150 that's outselling, let's say, a Corolla kind of thing. But then there's a Honda CRV came in fifth. Ram trucks came in sixth.
I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised by that.
Now, these numbers are production numbers. They're not sales numbers. And right now, Ford and Dodge or Ram trucks, Chevy trucks, Toyota trucks, they're sitting on a very large amount of inventory. In fact, almost all Toyota inventory that's sitting on lots are trucks. And one of the reasons I think, now this is, at least in the United States, Stellantis for the Jeep division has a 6 months of inventory sitting on lots. So they're starting to actually have sales on Jeeps now that you never see.
Unheard of.
Absolutely unheard of for a deal on a Jeep. Yeah. And that's because Stellantis really jacked up the prices when they bought the brand. I saw somebody doing a YouTube production that was talking about the price of trucks in the Phoenix market and how these were all sitting. And a Jeep, what was that Jeep pickup truck?
The Gladiator.
The Gladiator. The cheapest one was $68,000. Yeah. And then it just seems ridiculous for a pickup. The cheapest four-wheel drive pickup they could find in that market was a Ram 1500 for $58,000 that was complete base model. And that's still, you think about if you needed a cheap work truck, you would think about getting, let's say, a Ford F-150 or a Ram 1500 that was single cab, right?
It's a work truck. It's going to get
work
beat
truck.
Up. I need to haul. I need to tow. I need to do that. Yeah.
You pretty much have to special order that crap. I mean, it's just they what people are buying are the extended cab.
Yep.
And the truck portion is probably more for looks than it is for function in a lot of these cases.
I need a work truck. I need something that's going to get beat up.
So in this top 10, we have 3 trucks. We have the Ford F, the Ram trucks, and the Toyota Hilux. And so they separate for Ford. Well, and Ford does have the Maverick now.
Yep.
So they don't include the Maverick in here, but it's almost always just been the F series trucks.
And like historically for what, 30, 40, however many years, like the F series has been one of the top selling, if not the top selling vehicle in the world forever. It's just been so dang popular and been out there.
Right. And then what do we got? We've got the Toyota Camry, BYD Song, and the Model 3. So out of 10 vehicles, top 10 most produced in the world, we have 3 that are trucks and 3 that are EVs. Yeah, and BYD, which had the number 9 vehicle, produced the most EVs last. Not available in the US. Mm-hmm. And they produced more EVs last year than Tesla did by a minuscule difference. It was like 1% or 2%, something like that. And this is really changing. Now, the RAV4 is built as a hybrid. You can get hybrid Corollas. You can get hybrid. Can you get a hybrid CRV? I'm not sure about
I know
Honda.
You can get I don't know if you can get a plug-in hybrid one. I think that technology is coming, but I don't know if you can get one today.
And Camry has been regular hybrid, not plug-in hybrid.
Yeah. But they've been, Toyota's offered those for quite a while. The hybrid models on all of their vehicles. Because I want to say what's their really big one? Not the Highlander, Sequoia. I almost want to say that's hybrid standard. All of those are hybrids now.
Well, that's a good change, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's
so here's my anecdote.
See where that comes up.
We're in Nebraska, which is center of the country. I was in rural Wyoming last week, and you see Teslas. I was shocked. Yeah. I mean, along traveling I-80 east across wide open spaces, there's Teslas. You pick up on it in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's Teslas driving around. Laramie, Wyoming. There's Teslas driving around. It's not as prevalent even as it is in Nebraska, but it's just one of those eye-opening to me. Like, boy, that is as far away from the coasts as you can get, and in places, and they're starting to make an entrance.
I've gotten range anxiety in gas vehicles in Wyoming because you have a long ways between fuel stations, and you better make sure you've topped off early enough. And you see pickup trucks there, they all have that extra fuel tank and the bed. Yep. I don't know how many gallons those hold, but if you live an hour and a half away from a fueling station, you sure don't want to have to be running, spending 3 hours driving just to go get gas all the time. Mm-hmm. And what's different is when you live out there, if you are that far away from a gas station, if you had an electric vehicle, you just have to be near an electric plug.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's really different, because I think I see all these people talking about, well, you can't own them rurally. It's like, well, why can't you?
Why can't you?
There's nowhere to charge it. Well, you charge it at home.
At home, you have electricity, you have power.
Exactly. So it's fascinating to kind of see that. My next article is talking about why you might be charging your EV wrong and what to do instead. And we'll have to see what this is all about. This article, many EV drivers carry over habits from gas cars when they charge their EVs that lead to wasted time, inconvenience, and range anxiety. Mental models guide electric vehicle charging. What are they doing? What are they doing? Some of the more sophisticated EV drivers had picked a repeating event that happens at a place they can plug in at a time or event lasting several hours, commonly when returning home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
I kind of want to say duh to that. I mean, yeah, it's called building habits, um, and you have those habits, and it's 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 what it is. Now, what's interesting in some of this space is new EV drivers don't necessarily have that habit yet. And looking at it from like a utility perspective or side, like, is there a way upfront to help shape some of that behavior of like, I don't want you to plug in at 5 o'clock. Can you wait till plug in at 8 o'clock? Instead of when you close the garage door, you plug in. When you let the dog out at 9 o'clock at night, go plug in. Make that your habit in the space. So I don't know. I don't know about that article of people follow their habits like that.
Well, I think one of the things is people that drive gas cars, they're probably always thinking about, because when you go get gas, you always top off,
Yep.
right? And whereas with EVs, you generally only go to 80%, so you can maximize the life of the battery.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I guess it's just a few little changes that have to occur. There wasn't really a lot of meat to that article.
No, and I read through it a little bit, and it kind of talks through look at your day ahead. And you know what? If you don't have a lot to do tomorrow, maybe you don't, and you've got 60 miles of range, maybe you don't need to top off, or plug it in or charge. But hey, I got a busy day tomorrow. I need to make sure I get a full night's charge, and it's ramped up and ready to go in the morning.
We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about apartments and how even level 1 charging, if your car's plugged in for 10 to 12 hours a night, even if you only add 30 to 50 miles of range, most people, that's
It's fine.
all their daily driving anyways. So it's not like you have to have a tremendous amount of juice in that car to keep going each
Now
day.
that the weather's getting nicer, I mean, realistically, I can charge once a week. Maybe twice a week if I got, I'm going 20 miles out of town or something, but just drop the kids off, go to the office, pick the kids up, come home, go to the grocery store, take them to practice, whatever it is. That the mileage is not a lot. I mean, it really doesn't add up. And you think about, well, I'm stuck, I'm sitting in traffic, this is happening. Well, battery's really not draining. It's not keeping that engine running. It's not idling. It's sitting there until you hit the gas pedal or power pedal, whatever you want to call
Right.
it.
Yeah, I hear people all the time. It's hard not to call it the gas pedal, right? Oh, anyways, our last article is one I would normally do with Bill, but we're going to talk about aviation a little bit today. And Stellantis keeps investing in Archer Aviation's all-electric aircraft. What's funny is when I look at these pictures, I always keep thinking these are like a drone or a toy. And it's just hard to fathom that these are really out there in the market, designed as air taxis. And because you look at all of these propellers, there's 6 on each wing. I mean, that's 12 propellers to lift this up. And they're using them as air taxis, and they don't have a lot of flying time, but there's a lot of demand for these. So Archer Aviation is building a 350,000 square foot facility on 100 acres in Georgia to produce 650 aircraft a year. And according to Stellantis, Archer's manufacturing facility would be one of the largest by volume in the aircraft industry. And the idea of this is they're going to use it essentially for air taxi services. And they're being started in various cities. And what we're talking about, no more than 30 minutes on a trip. So we're not talking about going cross country, that's for sure.
No, it's not that application. So I was looking at it because it was cold, so I was looking at the Virgin Islands and where it's at, and a lot of traffic back and forth between them. They're not that far apart. Puerto Rico's right there. It's a space like that. Between St. Croix and St. Thomas, it's a 2-hour ferry ride, 2.5, 3-hour ferry ride, or it's a 45-minute plane ride. And thinking about that, like, what a perfect application for that.
Oh, yeah.
You have this steady flow. It's not far. You don't have a car option. you know, there is a ferry option, there is a boat, but it's 3, 4, 5 times as long. Like, what a perfect go back and forth, go back and forth. You have a line of these sitting ready to go, and people hop in and off and take that one said it takes 10 minutes to charge. What a, you know, it's got a set route and people are going to use it.
Well, you think even about that Pipistrel aircraft that Bill is so in love with that only has 50 minutes of loiter time or flying
Mhm.
time or whatever, and then a little bit left over on the battery. It doesn't seem very practical go anywhere. But if you were talking about just hopping between islands, it would be quite appropriate for something like that if the locations are relatively close together and a car is impractical.
Yeah, yeah. Or
You know,
impossible. Even, I mean,
right.
there's no car option in there.
Yeah, I hadn't even really thought about that because we'd mostly thought about, well, you can use them for touch and goes and things like that, or because you're
Mhm.
certainly not going to use the plane as an air taxi, not like this.
No, no.
And this is simply an alternative, an electric aircraft that's an alternative to helicopters, I guess,
Yeah.
essentially. So it's just a matter of creating enough lift.
Which
And
we don't see around here. But you know, Los Angeles, like, it's not uncommon
right,
to see people use
well,
it just because it's the traffic is so bad and people have the means and resources. Like, I'll go
right,
over the top.
right. Well, anyways, that is our last topic for today. And I appreciate you coming on the show today, Mike.
Yeah,
And
great. Thanks for having me again, David.
yep. And folks, thanks for watching. Please leave us a comment. Let us know if there's something you'd like us to see us cover. And otherwise, everybody, thanks for watching and have a great day.